Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. She leaned in, eyes sparkling, lips parted slightly, and whispered a wish before blowing out the flame. Everyone clapped. Her coworkers, her gym friends, her boss who showed up late and brought expensive wine. Even I clapped, though my hands barely touched. The kitchen lights came back on, and I stood there holding a slice of carrot cake she used to love before she started pretending she didn't like sweets. No one noticed I hadn't been invited. I was told to be there. She texted, "Don't embarrass me. Just show up and be normal." And I did. I smiled. I wore the gray shirt she liked on other men. I handed her the gift she hadn't asked for, one I wrapped in paper I found under the stairs. She unwrapped it quickly, held it up without a word, and slid it behind the punch bowl. That's when I realized I was just another piece of the decor. Not her husband, not even a person, just stage lighting. What she didn't know was that I'd heard her voice 2 nights earlier through the bedroom door while she was on the phone. She didn't know I was home. Or maybe she didn't care. I'm done pretending. He's like static, always there, but you don't notice until it's annoying. I stood outside that door for 11 minutes, counting every cruel syllable she dropped like laundry. When I walked in, she was in bed with her back to me. I didn't say anything. I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling, planning nothing, feeling everything. A month of cold rejections followed. No good mornings. No eye contact. No acknowledgement unless I burned dinner. So I stopped trying. I went completely silent. And that's when she said it. Finally, "This is so much better." She didn't say it with hate. She said it with relief. So I made a wish too. I wished for a version of me that didn't love her anymore. That night, I didn't pack a suitcase. I didn't slam a door. I simply walked out in the middle of her party, left the house key inside a half-eaten slice of cake, and vanished into the dark. But that wasn't the end. The next time I saw her, she was begging me to believe her version of the truth. And someone else was standing behind her, someone I never expected to be involved. I didn't go far that first night. Just to the motel on the edge of town with flickering lights and a clerk who didn't ask questions. The place reeked of bleach and bad decisions. I didn't care. I just needed somewhere that didn't have her perfume soaked into the pillows. Somewhere quiet enough to finally hear my own thoughts. I turned my phone off for 2 days. No texts, no calls, no noise. Just the low hum of a broken heater and the sound of my own breathing, heavier than it used to be. I kept wondering if she'd notice I was gone, if she'd panic, if she'd call my brother or knock on our neighbors' doors. But when I finally powered the phone back on, there was nothing. No missed calls. Not even a message asking where I'd gone. Not even a question mark. She didn't care. Or worse, she did, and she was glad I was gone. So I returned. Not to stay, but to get closure. To grab the last few things I'd left behind. My watch. My journals. The wooden box with my father's cufflinks. When I walked into the house, it was silent. Too silent. Like no one lived there anymore. But someone had. There were 2 wine glasses in the sink. One had lipstick that wasn't hers. A jacket on the back of the kitchen chair, not mine. And her voice. I heard it faintly from upstairs, casual, laughing. Not the cold, clipped tone she used with me. This laugh was full. It was real. And it wasn't for me. I froze. My feet didn't move, but my hands started trembling. Not from rage, I wish it were that. It was from something worse, confirmation. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining the distance. She had already replaced me. While I was begging for a scrap of affection, someone else was drinking wine from my glass, wearing their coat in my home, laughing in my wife's ear. I walked back out before she noticed I was there. I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell. I didn't interrupt her fun. But I did leave one thing behind, the wedding ring. I slid it onto the dining table and turned it just so, facing the seat where she used to sit. A silent message. "I'm done being your ghost." I drove to my cousin Jules's cabin in the mountains. He owed me a favor. I told him I needed a few days. He didn't ask, just handed me the keys and a stack of firewood. That night, while I tried to sleep on a lumpy couch, my phone buzzed. It was her. The message said, "You have no idea what you've just done. Call me, please." And then, right after that, came another text. But it wasn't from her. It was from the other woman, the one whose lipstick was on the glass. And she wrote, "You deserve to know who I am and what she's been hiding." I didn't answer right away. I sat there in that freezing cabin, the fire barely alive, staring at her message until the screen dimmed. "You deserve to know who I am and what she's been hiding." That sentence crawled under my skin like a slow poison. I knew I should have deleted it. Just turn off the phone, shut it all out. But curiosity is a cruel thing, especially when it wraps itself around your humiliation and squeezes. So I replied, "Who are you?" A bubble appeared almost instantly, like she'd been waiting. And then it popped up. "My name is Maribel. We work together. I didn't know about you. I swear." The name didn't ring a bell, but my hands went numb anyway. I typed, "Work together where?" She responded, "Your wife and I are in the same department. HR." Then she followed it up with something that made my vision blur. "We were seeing each other until I found out she was married." I ended it. She didn't. I asked for proof. She sent screenshots. Dozens of them. Conversations filled with pet names, vacation plans, complaints about a husband who doesn't get it. But the part that ripped something loose inside me was this one line from my wife, written just a few weeks ago. "He still thinks I'm just tired." It's actually kind of sweet. I remember laughing, not because it was funny. It was the kind of laugh that hurts your throat. The kind that makes you realize you've been holding your breath for too long. I messaged back, "Why are you telling me this?" And Maribel said, "Because I would want to know. And because, I'm sorry, I thought she was someone else." I didn't know what to feel. I wasn't even angry. Not yet. I was empty. Like someone had reached inside me, scooped out every ounce of self-worth, and left a note that said, "Thanks for playing." The next morning, I drove back to town. I didn't even pack. I left the cabin key under a rock by the porch and just went. I didn't have a plan. I didn't want revenge. I wanted answers. Or closure. Or maybe just the dignity of looking her in the eye and asking, why? But when I pulled into the driveway, something felt off. The blinds were drawn. The mailbox was stuffed. And the front door? Slightly open. Inside, the air was heavy, like someone had just been there and left in a hurry. Drawers half closed, closet door ajar, laundry basket overturned. I called out her name, but nothing answered. Not even the creak of floorboards. And then I saw it, on the kitchen counter. Her phone, just sitting there, screen cracked, battery dead. Next to it was a note scribbled on the back of an old grocery list. "You weren't supposed to find out like this. I'm sorry. I need time." Time. After 10 years? After vanishing for days and leaving behind chaos and lipstick and silence? But that wasn't what broke me. It was the second note underneath. Not written by her. Not in her handwriting. It simply said, "She ran. I didn't. Meet me at the coffee shop on Bay Street, noon." It was signed, Maribel. I got to the cafe half an hour early. I didn't want to. I told myself I wouldn't. But my hands had already turned the key and backed out of the driveway before my brain had fully agreed. The air outside smelled like burnt espresso and rain-soaked sidewalks, but it was better than the suffocating stillness of that empty house. The place was quiet. A few people on laptops. A barista with blue hair humming to herself. And then, her. Maribel. She was already there, sitting at the corner table near the window, fingers curled around a chipped ceramic mug. She looked nervous. She looked like she didn't want to be there any more than I did. I sat down without saying anything, just stared at her. She gave me a sad little smile and said, "I didn't come to hurt you. I came because she's been hurting both of us." I stayed silent. Part of me didn't even want to hear it, whatever truth she thought I deserved. But I needed to understand. I needed to know how my marriage had unraveled behind my back like some bad off-Broadway plot. Maribel started slow. "We met 2 years ago. I didn't know she was married. She said she was in a situationship. Said you were roommates, basically." I flinched. She noticed. "I believed her," she continued. "She never wore a ring. Always kept her personal life compartmentalized." I nodded stiffly. That tracked. My wife used to joke that she liked her private compartments. I used to think she meant drawers and closets. Turns out, it was people. Then Maribel dropped the first bomb. You weren't the only one she was lying to. There was someone else. A man. Older. Married. Executive level. That's why she panicked when you left. He stopped answering her calls. My stomach turned. So what? She was just collecting people. Maribel looked away. I think she was surviving. In her own messed up way. But I only found out recently that she was still married. I confronted her. She said she was handling it. That you were emotionally weak and wouldn't take the truth well. I laughed bitterly. She's not wrong. Maribel shook her head. No, she's just cruel. Then she pulled something out of her bag. A manila envelope. worn at the edges. Inside were printed emails, screenshots, even a photo, my wife kissing someone outside a hotel. Not Maribel. Not me. A third man. Bald. Ring on his finger, name tag clipped to his blazer. She's been working him for months, Maribel said. Bonuses. Promotions. Trips. I thought you should see what she's really capable of. I sat there staring at the papers like they were some kind of ancient language I couldn't read. I wanted to feel angry, betrayed, vengeful. But all I felt was exhausted. Not just from her lies, from myself. From all the years I stayed quiet, tolerated distance, mistook coldness for stress. I stood up. Why are you doing this? Maribel looked up at me, eyes red. Because I didn't walk into this to become part of someone's destruction. And because she's not done. That made me pause. What do you mean, not done? She hesitated. She's moving money. Quietly. From your joint accounts. She's planning something. And after what I've seen, you deserve to be ahead of it. I walked out of that cafe with the envelope tucked under my arm like a wound I didn't want to expose. I didn't even go home. I drove straight to my bank. And that's when I realized. She was already 3 steps ahead of me. I remember sitting in the parking lot for a solid 10 minutes before I could even get out of the car. My fingers were numb against the steering wheel. Not from the cold, from the weight of it all. That feeling like your life's been hollowed out, and you're just performing what's left of you. I didn't want to believe Maribel. I wanted to pretend she was exaggerating or mistaken. But somewhere deep down, I already knew. My wife wasn't the woman I married anymore, and maybe she never was. When I walked into the bank, I wasn't expecting drama. I just wanted to check. A balance. A transaction. Anything to prove I still had something left that was mine. The manager, a man named Gregory who had always been overly friendly, gave me a strange look when I asked to review our joint accounts. His smile twitched. I'm sorry, he said slowly, but I'll need to verify a few things before I can show you the activity. That's when I knew. 10 minutes later, in a small office that smelled like printer toner and stale coffee, Gregory clicked through the statements while I sat across from him, barely breathing. And then he turned the screen toward me and said, I'm going to be honest. This looks intentional. Over 20 transfers. Small ones at first. $300 here, $500 there. Each sent to a newly created checking account under a business name I didn't recognize. Delaney Consulting, LLC. The last 4 transfers? Over $10,000 each. All in the last 2 weeks. She registered it in both your names, Gregory explained. But after the initial setup, she removed your authorization. She must have done it in person. Honestly, we didn't flag it because it looked like a standard business split. My throat tightened. Can I reverse any of it? He sighed. I'm afraid not without a legal order. And even then, she may have already withdrawn the funds. The floor beneath me might as well have cracked open. I couldn't even be mad. I felt stupid, like a child who trusted the magician, even after seeing the strings. I thanked Gregory, took the printouts, and left, this time not even sure where to go. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a number I didn't recognize. I answered without thinking, expecting another blow. But it wasn't her. It was a woman named Candace. I'm not sure if I'm crossing a line here, she said quickly, but I saw your number in Della's emergency contacts. I think you need to know something. She was staying at my Airbnb until last night. She left in a hurry. Didn't say much, but she looked scared. Scared? I echoed. She took a call, Candace said. After that, she packed everything. Left a mess behind, too. I only called because she left this folder behind with your name on it. My chest tightened again. Where are you? She gave me the address. It wasn't far. Some rental house near the old pier, probably used for weekends and quick getaways. I thanked her and drove straight there, feeling like I was moving through molasses. The sky was darkening, storm clouds piling over each other like secrets too big to stay hidden. Candace greeted me at the door, holding the folder like it was radioactive. I didn't look, she said, but she wrote your name on the front. All caps. Sharpie. I took it and sat on the edge of the porch. My hands were shaking. The first page inside wasn't a letter or an apology. It was a contract. For a private investigator. Signed by my wife. The second page? Photos. Of me. Sitting in my car. Leaving my office. Walking out of the cabin in the mountains. She'd been tracking me. Not cheating behind my back. Planning. Watching. Controlling the story before I ever knew I was in one. I didn't speak to Candace after that. I just nodded, thanked her, and sat in my car with the envelope on my lap for at least 15 minutes before I could bring myself to look through the rest. The wind outside had picked up. Rain streaked down the windshield. Every instinct told me to drive, to move, to get away from wherever this twisted path was leading. But something deeper, something wounded and starved for answers, kept me frozen in place. The photos were detailed, dated, labeled in handwriting that wasn't hers. Some were surveillance style, grainy, distant shots of me fueling up at a gas station, sitting on a bench by the lake, buying groceries. Others were more intimate. One was taken from what looked like across the street, me in my bedroom through the window, shirtless, brushing my teeth. That one made my stomach drop. She'd gone far beyond betrayal. This was something else. Behind the stack of photos was a receipt. A payment confirmation for several months' worth of work from a company called Clarion Risk Solutions. I looked it up on my phone. Private security and intelligence. Not cheap. Definitely not casual. And suddenly, Maribel's warning about my wife not being done didn't seem like paranoia. It felt like prophecy. Then came the letter. Folded, unsealed, written by hand. In her unmistakable cursive. No greeting. No signature. Just one chilling paragraph. I had to be sure. You weren't behaving like you normally do. The cabin, the silence, the distance, it didn't feel like you. I needed to know if you were planning something behind my back before I finished what I started. If you're reading this, then I guess you found the trail. I underestimated you. But that doesn't mean I'm done. That last line echoed in my skull like a bullet casing hitting tile. I'm not done. I don't remember starting the car. I don't remember driving home. All I know is I found myself standing in our kitchen, dripping wet, heart pounding like it wanted out of my chest. The house was still, too still, and that was when I noticed something strange. The hallway closet was open. It was never open. Inside, where we kept random storage boxes and winter coats, something had been disturbed. Moved. One of the floorboards beneath the closet had been pulled up and reattached, sloppily. I dropped to my knees, heart racing, and pried it open again. There was a small black case tucked inside. Locked, but cheap. I snapped it open with a screwdriver. Inside were passports. 2 of them. One with her name. One fake, under a different name, Annika Delar. Both had stamps. Recent ones. A thick wad of cash. 2 burner phones. And beneath all that, a flash drive taped to the bottom. Whatever she had been preparing for, it wasn't just about escaping me. It was bigger. This was an exit strategy. A full-blown reinvention. And I wasn't meant to find it. The moment I stood up, one of the burner phones buzzed in my hand. A message. Unknown number. Put everything back. Now. I'm on my way. My blood turned to ice. She was watching. Even now. I didn't put the items back. I didn't respond to the message. I stood there, soaked and shaking, heart pounding against my ribs like a warning siren, gripping that flash drive as if it might explode in my hand. For a few seconds, I seriously considered throwing it out the window and running. But that word, running, had been following me for weeks. I was tired of being the one running. It was time to stand still and finally look at the wreckage she'd left behind. I slid the drive into my old laptop, the one I hadn't used in over a year, the one she never touched. The folder opened automatically. No password, no encryption, just a series of video files, each named with a single date. All recent, all recorded in secret. I clicked the first one. It was her, in a hotel room, sitting on the edge of a bed, talking directly into the camera. I need to document everything, she said, her tone cold and clinical. In case he does something drastic. I need leverage. I need to prove I was right about him all along. I blinked. What? She kept talking. He's not stable anymore. He's withdrawn. Secretive. I think he suspects something. I've seen him checking his phone when he thinks I'm not looking. I've heard him on late-night calls. I don't know what he's planning, but I won't be blindsided. It took me a full minute to realize she was talking about me. I skipped to the next video. Same hotel room. Different outfit. If I disappear, if anything happens to me, start with him. That's all I'll say for now. Another clip. A man's voice in the background. Muffled, but unmistakably her boss. She turned toward the sound, lowered her voice, and said, "You sure this will hold up legally? Because if I pull the trigger on this, there's no turning back." Another file opened on its own. A recording of a Zoom meeting, not with HR or her department, but with a lawyer. She was setting up something. A claim? No. It was worse. She was building a false narrative about me, that I was emotionally unstable, paranoid, that she feared for her safety, that I'd started isolating her, limiting her financial freedom, even though she'd been the one draining our accounts. She was preparing to paint herself as the victim and me as the abuser. The final video made my hands go cold. It was of me. Not a photo this time. A hidden camera angle, likely set up in our bedroom. I was pacing, rubbing my temples, muttering to myself the night I first left for the cabin. There was no audio. Just me, looking broken, confused, human. But in her hands, it would be twisted into something darker, something dangerous. And then, a file I hadn't seen before appeared. Insurance. MP4-inch. I hesitated, then opened it. It was a recording of her, back at that same hotel. She wasn't alone. Maribel was in the frame. They were arguing. My wife was accusing her of betrayal. Maribel kept saying, "You said he was violent. You said he hit you. I wouldn't have gotten involved otherwise." My wife laughed. Laughed. I had to say something. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you I was just bored." Maribel froze. "You used me," she said quietly. My wife's reply? "You let me." I shut the laptop slowly, my hands trembling, breath stuck in my throat. That was it. That was all I needed to see. She hadn't just lied. She hadn't just cheated. She'd rewritten the entire story of our life together. A story where I was the villain and she was the fragile, scared survivor. She was preparing to vanish and leave me with the ashes. My phone buzzed again. Another message. This time from her number. "I'm almost there. Please, let's talk." She was on her way. To the house. To me. And suddenly I realized she didn't know I'd seen everything. Not yet. But I wasn't going to run. Not anymore. The front door creaked open slowly. I didn't flinch. I was already sitting at the kitchen table, laptop open, the flash drive still plugged in. I'd made coffee, not for her, but for myself. For some reason, it made me feel more in control. She stepped inside like she owned the place. Same coat, same calculated expression. Like a woman who was sure she could spin anything. She stopped when she saw me. Her eyes darted to the laptop. "You're here," she said, like it was a surprise. "I live here," I replied calmly. There was a beat of silence. Then, she tried to sit down across from me, but I didn't move the second chair out. She stood. "I'm sorry," she began. "I didn't mean for it to get this far. Things just spiraled." "Which part spiraled?" I asked, keeping my voice even. "The secret account? The fake abuse claims? Or the surveillance footage you were planning to use against me?" Her face twitched, just slightly. "Enough to confirm everything." "I saw it all," I said. "The videos. The files. Maribel's messages. I know what you were doing. You weren't preparing to escape. You were preparing to destroy me." She said nothing. Not right away. Just stared at the floor. And for a moment, one short moment, I saw the mask slip. Not shame. Not regret. Defeat. I slid the laptop toward her and played the last video. The one with her laughing in the hotel room, mocking Maribel. She watched in silence. Then she whispered, "You don't understand. I didn't have a plan at first. I just wanted more. And instead of asking for a divorce," I said, "you tried to turn me into a villain." She didn't deny it. I stood up, walked to the counter, and handed her an envelope. Inside were printed screenshots, bank records, video transcripts, and a letter from a lawyer I'd met that morning. "I'm filing first," I said. "I've already frozen the rest of our accounts. The house is in my name, and I've made a copy of everything on that drive. You won't be able to twist this." She stood there, stunned, for the first time truly speechless. Then she nodded, turned, and walked out. No screaming, no lies, just silence, the very thing she once gave me for weeks. Only this time, it was mine. A month later, the papers were signed. The money she siphoned was traced and returned. The PI she hired ended up testifying in my favor. And as for Maribel, we exchanged one more message. No expectations. Just two people who were fooled by the same mask, finding peace in shared survival. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not broken. I'm free. Sometimes the best revenge is simply being done. Thank you for following this wild journey on Reddit Confessions. If you've ever uncovered a hidden truth or survived one, tell us about a surprising historical event that still fascinates you. Drop it in the comments below. And as always, subscribe to Reddit Confessions for more stories you'll never forget.